Welcome to lesson 11 of this Autodesk Maya tutorial. What we are going to be learning today in this lesson will be the manipulation of different camera properties, how to use your cameras, and the multiple different kinds there are in the Autodesk Maya. Now, from the previous lesson, we've created a simple turntable animation, and now we're going to add some depth and add camera movements and camera animations to this. Now, an easy way is go to Create. Under your cameras, there are 3 different types of cameras. You will only ever need to use 2 of these, the first camera and aim. You don't really need to use camera, aim, and up. It doesn't really add to the animation at all. Let's start with camera. Now, when you import a camera, it will show up just like any other property in the center of your grid. You can also manipulate this. And one quick way to actually look through your camera and find out what this new camera is seeing is actually pressing spacebar. And you can also do this with your original panel, but pick a panel that you're not using, go under Panels, and Perspectives will have your normal perspective camera and your new camera, camera 1. You can also pick other types, orthographic, you can pick the front side. We already have a front, but you can pick sides, top, front, back, left, right, top, bottom. These are all layouts that you can choose. If you don't want this side here, or the front side here, or the top side here, you can switch these around. For now, let's go to Perspective and go to Camera 1. This is actually what you're seeing in Camera 1. Now, if you see, if we move this camera, the physical camera property actually moves. So let's zoom out through here. And let's see that's the picture that I want rendered. For this perspective, I'm actually looking at the fine details, editing in this perspective panel. But on the camera 1, that is what I want rendered. So if you do choose to render, all you have to do is go to Settings, scroll down, and we'll go through all of these settings later on. But for now, renderable camera, all you have to do is change it to perspective 1, and it'll render. Let's try. You can even also just change it here, camera shape 1. Background. If we turn it on, you can see that it's right back. For now, in order to not accidentally select it all the time, we just disabled it. But your camera 1 angle, whatever you do with your perspective 1, it won't change your camera 1. And if you actually really like this angle and you want to lock it in place, what you can do is there's a camera lock. And if you click this, if I try to move it, the camera does not move, no matter what I do to it. Now, let's look at the camera properties. Let's cancel this for now. Camera 1, attribute editor. Now, there is a bunch of controls that you can use for your camera. First off, another way that you can manipulate your camera easily is look through here and actually physically change it from here. You can see the camera angle will change. Now, we can look at the properties. Angle of view. That means it results in somewhat of a 360-degree type of camera. The more you zoom in, or the more you zoom out. Let's change this back. So now you have your focal length. This will actually result in the zoom of your camera. You can see even the zoom lens of your camera increasing or decreasing without having to change the position of your camera. Set this back. Both things you can already do by actually zooming in the camera itself or zooming out. Now, the only other thing that you would need to worry about is your depth of field. That is, if you want your depth of field, that's making closer things more clearer than your background, or making your background more clearer than the things that are close to you. That is really the only manipulation that you need. Feel free to experiment with any of the other properties that you can manipulate within the camera, but the only thing that you really need is if you want depth of field and your camera zooming in and out. And that is it. And that is something that you can also control just with a scroll. You don't ever really need to touch your camera shape 1 properties. So that is the first camera. We can delete this and go to cameras and aim. Now what this does is very unique. Let's move this aside and let's actually make this bigger so that we can see. Move aside. There you go. Now, as you can see, when I created the camera and aim, it created the camera and a line with a dot, if you can see. Let's select the background. Let's actually make this not visible. Now, your camera is going to revolve around this dot. So let's say I move the whole camera group, move it towards the front of the camera. Now, when I actually move the camera, it will revolve around the dot. And it will always be aiming at the dot. So let's see, camera 1. No matter how we move, we will always keep the dot in place and it will always view that. Now it is very useful for animations. You can always keep something in focus. Now another way that you can do this, if you don't want to animate, if you have a very complicated animation, is honestly if you create your normal camera, let's go to camera 2, you can animate a keyframe here, you can animate a keyframe here, you can animate a keyframe here. It essentially does the same exact thing, but it doesn't keep one specific point in focus, but that is more complicated unless you don't want something in focus. It does keep things simple, and it doesn't allow you to animate 2 or 3 different things at once, the dot, the line, and the camera angle. It does get complicated sometimes, and in that case, just use the normal camera. And once you go, let's do an animation. Camera 2, let's do a keyframe here, and a keyframe here. Now you can see that from the start, it kind of goes in a U shape. It doesn't essentially go around and keep the bottle in sight. That is where things get complicated with the normal camera. Now what I do is I just go to the middle of the keyframe and adjust it there. Make another keyframe. And that usually helps things out. But in any case, if you want a specific point in the animation, then obviously just use your camera and aim. Let's delete camera 2, camera group 1, and let's try an animation with this. Let's actually delete this, create a new camera. And let's say I want the tag specifically. Let's move the camera back a bit more. And because the turntable is moving, I will also move this and move this way back. Let's do towards the middle. And let's move the camera a little angled up. Let's start the animation here, and as it goes, we will bring the camera closer. Animation here. And let's actually move this from here to here. Let's review the animation. And just around here, let's move the camera up and down. Now let's review the animation. Because it is a lot of frames, you won't be able to see a full run through of the animation, but you can always skip through a few frames while looking at this. Now if you want, we can also have a render going. Let's turn this visible. And actually, before we go through, we want to quickly save and have a run through. There you go. Now, because this is just a sample animation, let's actually work around this further. Save this. And that is our animation, so that the bottom circles don't come up in our animation. Now, this is there because of the way that we saved our HDRI. Normally, these wouldn't be there. Now you can find ways around it. If you save it from Google, usually they won't be there, but that depends on the picture that you've saved. For now, we'll work around that and have an animation without looking at the bottom. And that is our camera animation. Now, if you want to render it, that is essentially our next lesson, and we will be putting everything we learned together and review the final outcome and export it in a way that you can view the animation, because right now you can't actually view the animation. You can see the objects move and what the animation would kind of look like, but you don't know the final result. As in, you can see here, we can just see a front view, a very low pixelated description, but this is just a front angle without any of the camera angles. You can kind of guess how the animation looks, but the final result will be in the next lesson. Thank you.